welcome to UATeaTime within the United Countries special by First Ukraine. You can find us on the frequencies available on our website, firstuat.com. I'm Sergey, Velichanskiy.
And I am Olivier Vedrine. UATeaTime is dedicated to bring Ukraine and Europe closer to each other by introducing the Ukraine to the rest of the world.
Odessa is a legendary Russian-speaking Ukrainian city. What is happening there now? Let's conduct a pulse check.
Our guest today is Vladislav Davidzon, the chief editor of the Odessa Review magazine.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's a great pleasure, actually. Please tell us a little bit about the magazine, the Odessa Review. Basically, pretty much it has to be a channel of all the information that's there about the city, right?
That's correct. We're just founding our magazine. This is the first issue. It's coming out this week, actually. And we are, I think, only in fact the 5th or 6th English language print publication of the entire country. Ukraine, despite the fact that it has 45 million people, is underserved in terms of print publications in English. And we are founding a Time Out New York, or a New York magazine for Odessa, with a dash of the London Review of Books and maybe a little bit of Snob.
So pretty much there have not been any English magazines so far? Or has there been maybe some smaller ones?
I think that the Kyiv Post, which is run by my fellow American, the wonderful Brian Bonner,
yes,
had a short-lived Odessa edition. I think about 10 years ago.
Might have. Okay.
But I don't think that counts as a
That's really the
standalone
first
magazine.
English-speaking newspaper.
Yeah, I think we are, based on my research, the first English.
Well, you know, if there had been some, there might have been just, you know, small ones or short.
Maybe zines.
But, okay.
But we are a print publication between 100 and 150 pages with a dedicated website and a staff and staff writers and.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
all
Western
right. So
standards.
we need to be friends, you know, with UATeaTime and the Odessa Review.
You just started now, yeah?
Yeah, this is our first issue. We're just launching now, and it's really exciting. It's a lot of fun.
All right. Well, actually, you know, Mr. Brian Bonner was sitting here, right here, too. So
it's a great honor.
It is. All right.
And my partner, you told me my partner, Peter Dickinson,
yes.
So who is our editor at large and helped me found the magazine and did a lot of the heavy lifting. Has been here with you a couple of times, right?
A couple of times. That's
true. He's one of our first fan and supporter.
Yeah. Well, would you please give us a little bit of your background, because you're pretty much one of those people that can say you're
citizen of the world?
A world person, you know?
I guess, yeah.
So, being born in
Tashkent,
Uzbekistan, and then how did you end up in Odessa doing what you do?
My family is on my father's side from Ukraine. They were Ukrainian Jews who fled the Nazis to Central Asia. And on my mother's side, they're from Georgia and Belarus. But my family lived in Ukraine for hundreds and maybe 1,000 years. And I was born in Uzbekistan at the tail end of the Soviet Union. And we left for Moscow. I was a little boy, and I spent my childhood in Moscow. And then in the early 90s, right before the collapse of the Soviet Union, we immigrated to the States.
All right.
Political refugees, and I grew up in America, in New York City. I'm a 10,000% a New Yorker. And then I went to school in Europe. I have a master's degree in human rights law from Venice. And then I met my wife, who's an Odessan in Paris, and we came back here to build a new nation. I think, like Olivier, a lot of other people.
What are the odds?
We are citizens of the world, you know. As my friend Vladislav, I spent my childhood in USA. I say to you in Canada and in USA, North Scotia and South Carolina.
Should I say anything about myself?
You can.
No. Vladislav is our guest, so let's
Vladislav,
draw our attention to him. Now, what Odessa has always been on our minds, especially with the political and military situation with Russia and Crimea annexation.
Yeah.
What are the what's the spirit? What's the air like in the minds of the Odessa people?
Well, it is a Russian-speaking city. It's a proudly Russian-speaking city, and in fact, it's a cradle of Russian literature. It's also a cradle of Greek literature and Israeli, Hebrew literature. It's a cradle of Bulgarian literature. It's a cradle of lots of things, and it's a very cosmopolitan city. It's got a remarkable history, and it's full of all sorts of people. In fact, a certain idea of Ukraine as a multinational, pan-European.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You are in Odessa.
Sure.
And for me, Odessa is like New York, you know.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
like a port, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And with maybe 100 nationalities.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe
And
more.
I think you are now in Odessa. This is because you come from New York.
It's absolutely true. In fact, I spent a large chunk of my childhood in Little Odessa in Brighton Beach, which is the Russian enclave.
Okay.
It's very funny. I always thought about it, and I always read about it. And then it just so happened that I met a woman who's from Odessa in
And
Paris.
you know that Odessa is also a French city, my friend.
Absolutely.
So what were we talking about before we were rudely interrupted?
We could talk about how it's a French city. We could talk about Langeron and
What do the people feel right now? You started talking about that it's a Russian language city. No doubts about that,
Right.
that's for sure. But what are the people's loyalties, their thoughts? What do they feel, what their belonging, what do they belong to, you know? That's the kind of question that is on the minds of a lot of people.
Yeah, rightly so. There is Ukrainian nationalism of a kind that was not there when I first started visiting, and about 6 years ago, I would never seen Ukrainian flags when I first came to Odessa in 2009, 2010.
Okay.
There were no Ukrainian flags, there were no Ukrainian nationalists, there were no people who were wearing Vyshyvanka Day. There were, I think in 2010, we were just wandering around the beachfront during the Vyshyvanka Day, and there must have been a couple of hundred people there.
Yeah.
And this year at Vyshyvanka Day, something like a couple of thousand people, so a factor of 10. It's very much building a national identity. It's very much part of the building consensus of a new Ukraine, a new European Ukraine. That said, there are problems historically, and there have been problems, and it's not that the loyalties of people are divided. It's just that Odessans are pleasure-loving, hedonistic, mercantile. I mean, Odessa is about business, it's about drinking, it's about beautiful girls, and it's about partying, and it's about making money, and it's about dash. And it's always been those things, no matter who ruled it. Odessa is both part of Ukraine, independent, and its own universe. It's like Hong Kong or New York in this way.
Yeah,
it absolutely has its own identity. That said, I do think that the Ukrainian national identity is consolidating, which is of course a good thing. And Governor Saakashvili, I'm sure we'll have to talk about that a great deal. Him being there is a big part of it, and a symbol. I'm not sure if it stems from that or an outcome of that, but things are changing, and things are changing quickly, but also they're not changing. Odessa is exactly the same as it was 150 years ago, which is great. It's fantastic 150 years ago. It was fantastic 100 years ago, and it's going to be fantastic 100 years from now.
And what do you talked about Saakashvili.
Yeah.
And we received one of the member, head of the administration.
Who was it?
Belgorod Dnistrovsky.
Yeah. And what are you thinking about the results of the policy of Saakashvili in Odessa and the Oblast of Odessa?
I have been following Saakashvili's peregrinations for 9 months now. I've been there ever since he arrived. I think May 30th or June 1st, when he was made governor. And I'm still writing about this, and I'm preparing a very long piece about the successes and some unfortunate failures of the governor's team in Odessa for the American Interest magazine. And the results have been mixed, but they've been more positive than not. More positive than not. And of course, it's very subjective. And when you're there, it's difficult to see how things are from the outside. So when you're in Kiev, it's very difficult to see how things are in the relative periphery. Yeah. You know, Kantian objectivity is impossible.
And what do you think about this? He is now making a political party.
Well, it's a movement.
It's a movement.
He always denies that it's a party, even though some people think it is a party.
Anti-corruption forum?
Yeah, the anti-corruption forum.
Yeah.
It's a movement at this point. It could very well become a party if there are snap elections.
Some person talk about a party, the other person talk about movement, but.
Yeah, he spent the last month and a half working on this strenuously. Yeah. He declared this, I think, December 13th. There was a conference that I and a lot of other international journalists attended in the Bristol Hotel in Odessa, and he's been hammering the prime minister and people around him in the cabinet since at least late September, since he started hammering the prime minister at the Yes Forum in late September. He's been at it ever since. The American Secret Service referred to him as the Energizer Bunny. That was actually his Secret Service code name. He's extremely energetic. I mean, we could talk more about his successes and his failures, but
no, you know, we I guess at UATeaTime we want to be objective in many ways, because it's sometimes we can tend to talk about the positive sides and saying everything is all right, but in reality we know that it's not that simple. So what do you think? What do you think the major hindrances? I'm sure we can highlight a couple of them.
Could write a book.
Yeah, I guess. But the major hindrances for him, and maybe, well, kind of take a look at the national level, I guess, as well, for the progress, because seems like we're like, a fast, a speed car, but in a traffic jam.
Yeah.
We're not just like we want to move, but we can't.
Yeah. Well, look, he was given a hero's welcome when he came in May and June, and the atmosphere of extreme excitement that overtook Odessa, that was a very good thing. And that's still there to a certain extent. Though the honeymoon is largely over, and some people are dissatisfied, as they would be with any politician after 9 months. There were elections which were contested on October 25th, and Odessa. I was with the international monitors. Odessa had one of the filthiest elections in the entire country. And we saw wide-scale irregularities in voting and counting and in ballot stuffing. I think that Saakashvili's people are correct that between 3% and 6% of the vote was stolen outright. So Saakashvili's candidate did not reach the second round of the election, Borovik. He did not reach the second round, and that was because of widespread irregularities which came from the allegedly mob-backed candidate, allegedly. And this is something that I'm going to write about in my forthcoming long article in American Interest. But there is good reason to think that people in the presidential administration did not back Saakashvili to the point that they promised him. So
it definitely does look like it. We can see the results and the disappointments, of a lot of progressively directed and motivated people for reforms.
Yeah.
And seems like Odessa elections pretty much backslid, you know, kind of went back a couple of, you know, years, you know, back because of with the speed that Mikhail Saakashvili took off with that speed, that suddenly with the elections, Odessa kind of went into stagnation.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's my observation from.
Do you think that can be the scenario for Ukraine? If we go too quickly?
I hope not, and things are at a point where we are still here in the middle of a political crisis that
because for a lot of European experts, Ukraine is in the middle of the bridge, you know?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's unfair to demand of Ukrainians in 2 years what took the Poles or the Hungarians or the Czechs 20 years. I mean, the Hungarians and the Poles are in the middle of a political crisis and a revanchist, right-wing conservative revival also. I mean,
and there was no war.
And there was no war.
Yeah,
there was no war. There are problems in Slovakia. We had neo-Nazis get a huge amount of votes in Slovakia a week ago. There are problems all over Europe. And if you compare the amount of right-wingers or reactionaries doing well all over the European Union, from Brussels to London and from Paris to Prague, I mean, Ukraine is not doing so badly. I mean, in the middle of a war, you don't have so much right-wing nationalism. Ukrainians are as patriotic as anybody else, but I don't see it.
I'm not talking about that. I am talking about the reforms. That's
the
middle of the bridge, you know, because everybody, you know, USA, European Union, we are waiting for some results, you know, and that you know that USA and European Union and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of France, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Germany, they are waiting they're waiting some result, concrete result, and they say, wait, we will give money if only you will improve, develop your reforms. That's for me. That's what in my question. You are in the middle of the bridge. I am agree with you with Nationalist Party in France, in Germany, Slovakia, Hungary. Okay,
sure.
But I'm talking about the reforms now.
Yeah, I mean, the reforms are advancing slowly. The things that the Europeans and the Americans have given the Ukrainians money to do, they've done very well. The police reform and procurement reform, those are the things that money and expertise was allocated for. Those things are doing very well. So if you gave money to the military and to education and to healthcare, those things would be reformed also. But this country has a lot of problems, and they're doing very well, I think, compared to how badly things.
No, I think we can be optimistic. Really.
We should be optimistic. Why would I come back from New York and from Paris and a very nice apartment in the Marais to live in Odessa if I wasn't optimistic or suicidal?
We'll come back to this in a second, but I want you to find us on Facebook, and it's facebook.com/UATeaTime. Find us and tell us what you think. We want to have feedback from you and give us direction of new topics and new guests that you would like us to have. So now let's come back to suicidal or optimistic approach.
Suicidally optimistic.
Suicidal optimistic.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this. Pretty much, have you had the journalistic or editor-in-chief experience prior to starting
Sure. So I worked for Tablet magazine. It's a great magazine. European culture correspondent for Tablet magazine, which is a great the Jewish Tablet, which is a great American magazine. I worked for Ukraine Today in Paris. I started life as a book reviewer, as a book critic. Places like the Four, the New York Observer, the Book Forum.
So tell us about your plans for the Odessa review.
Thank you for asking.
Right.
We're going to have events listings, high-level cultural events listings. So anyone who comes to Odessa, and please do visit us.
Hey, by the way, there will be an opening of the American football championship opening in Odessa. I will let you know.
I did not know that, but I do know that one of the football players for the Chernomorets is a guy who grew up in California.
You're talking about football like soccer.
Yeah.
I'm talking about American football.
See,
Yeah, so
it shows you which side I'm playing for.
no, it's all right. Hey, I mean, but the league is being formed. There are 20 teams in Ukraine, and they're starting a season in Odessa. So
wow.
yeah, I'll let you know about that.
Please
Yeah,
do.
that would
I
be-
didn't even hear about this.
So yes, please continue.
See, Odessa's a hot spot, and you should all visit us.
Exactly.
It's a remarkable town. It's a lot of fun, and it's beautiful, and it's got all sorts of things going for it, which is why it has a bright future. Which is why people like Saakashvili come to make their mark there and get back into politics there.
So the Odessa Review.
The Odessa Review, yeah. I love what Brian does with the Kiev Post,
Okay.
and I love what my friend and partner Peter does with Business Ukraine. So I'm not in competition with him on either business or politics. What the Odessa Review will be, we hope, is the preeminent cultural commentator in English
Okay.
on Ukraine's culture and Ukraine's literary culture, of which there's a great deal. So I have great many international writers, many of them who are remarkable, like Simon Sebek Montefiore, who comes to Odessa all the time and writes books about it, who's one of the most famous historians in the world, and for no money and for no prestige, perhaps, because he doesn't know he doesn't know that the magazine is going to be what I hope it will be, what it will be, decides to write an article for us just because he loves Odessa. People like that. People like that are going to be contributors because Odessa has a great deal of literary cash in the world.
That you don't want only to promote Odessa, you want to promote all the culture of Ukraine.
But those sorts of things happen naturally. They occur naturally, and it's Odessa-centric, and it's a mixed magazine in terms of it's a city guide, half city guide, and maybe 60% literary, cultural, political.
But even the name says it all, pretty much. The
Yeah.
Odessa Review.
Yes,
You
but
know?
it talk about culture of Ukraine.
Yeah, well, Odessa is in Ukraine.
Yeah, of
But
course.
Odessa, we've talked that it's got such a variety and diversity.
Yeah.
It's got its own mentality.
It has its own mentality, and it has its own way of doing things, and it has its own imprint on Ukrainian and world culture that is very particular to it, and we can talk about.
Make sure you have distribution here in Kiev
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You know, because Kiev people, and especially the visitors and the foreigners.
You think people want it here?
Well, there's a lot of expat, big expat community.
Yeah.
For starters, so they would definitely, that would be a good attention
We've
draw.
we've talked about this with my editorial staff and my partner and my publisher, but we haven't.
But if you want to focus on cultural aspect, I think you have a segment in this market.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And in the national level, not only in
that's the hope.
regional level.
Our first issue is dedicated to monuments to Odessa, and monuments to Odessan culture, and we have an entire portfolio of works about Babel. So we have an original translation of a Babel 1917 short story, 1916, 1917 short story, 100 years on the anniversary, by my friend Val Vinocourt, who's retranslating all of Babel for 100th anniversary of the Odessa Tales. For Northwestern University Press, which is a great university press of Eastern European translation.
Unfortunately, time is up.
Oh.
Time's up.
Yes, as always. Anything you wanted to add, maybe?
Yeah,
No?
come to Odessa, come visit us.
All right.
Come hang out, have a drink.
We'll definitely plan to do that. Okay, well, first of all, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
A great pleasure, yes. It was United Country, UATeaTime by First Ukraine. Our guest was Vladislav Davidzon, the chief editor of the Odessa Review magazine.
Olivier Vedrine and Sergey Velichanskiy were working for you in the studio. Stay with us and we show to you the real crane.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good day and see you soon.